Well, we have some good news finally, because the Trump officials have set the first meeting with China amid the tariff war. That is good news, and today we're going to talk about when this meeting could potentially be, what they're going to discuss, and why China is accepting the meeting at this time. Again, the United States knew the negotiations were going to happen at some point, but China is now agreeing simply because their country is in a panic. So I'm going to break all this down in just a moment, explain what is going on and why this is very good news, not just for China and the rest of the world, but for the United States as well. So again, I'm going to get to this in just a moment, but before I do, all I ask is one thing. It takes 2 seconds. Go ahead, hit that like button if you enjoy these daily updates. And now, let's begin. So yes, it is very good news that the Trump administration and Chinese officials are going to set a meeting. They're going to negotiate and discuss this tariff war. Now, we need to get to a little bit of this article, but first, before I do, I want to show you a very scary chart, and it's this one right here. It says Chinese imports hit 2-decade low as Trump tariffs begin to bite. It says while imports can swing with seasonal shift, President Trump's ratcheting up of U.S. tariffs on China has begun to cascade through supply chains, and government data shows. Look at this right here. You can see, so this right here is 2025. We're at 11%. Okay, this is China's share of all U.S. goods imports plotted quarterly. Okay, we haven't been here since 2004. So again, 21 years, we haven't been here. That is scary. Okay? Yeah, even right here in 2020, this is the pandemic. We're at 13%. Now we're at 11%. Do you see why that's a problem? That's a huge issue, especially when many retailers get the majority of their products from China. Costco example, gets a lot of their goods from China. And Costco's saying, well, if we can't get lower price goods, we're just not going to sell them. So what we're hearing is shelves are about to be empty. Look at this. It says the first boats carrying Chinese goods with 145% tariffs are arriving in LA. Shipments are cut in half and expect shortages soon. I've been telling you this for quite some time, that shortages are coming. We know they're coming. It's just a matter of time. Some said it's going to happen in June and July. Others said no, it's going to happen towards the middle of May and to the middle of June. That's where we're going to see the majority of the shortages, unless China and the United States negotiate. Look at this really quick. It says shortages and price hikes. It says rather than import goods to the United States, some retailers are choosing to pay to store their products in Chinese warehouses because it's cheaper than paying the tariff. Think about that for a second. The products are still being made because they have a contract. But guess what they're not doing? They're not shipping the products to the United States. They're keeping them over in China to avoid the tariff, a lease of 145%. Now, many retailers say, if it's a 30% tariff, a 50% tariff, we can get through that. But not at 145%. They're simply stocking the products in China. It says, with importers and retailers unwilling to pay the steep cost, deliveries could continue to fall as much as 60%. It says right here, a 60% decline in containers means 60% less stuff arriving. It's only a matter of time before they sell through existing inventory, and then you'll see shortages. And that's when you see price hikes. Again, some people thought we're going to see price hikes and then shortages. No. We will see shortages first. That's what's going to cause prices to go up. Again, the supply and demand principle kicks in here. Now, I want to read a little bit of this article to you. Okay? Look at this. So right here it says why it matters. It says, although President Trump has previously claimed that the U.S. and China were already negotiating tariff reductions, Beijing has publicly denied that talks had begun, insisting that the U.S. must first lower its punitive tariffs. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent appeared to clarify the situation during testimony before a House committee on Tuesday, stating that the two sides have not engaged in negotiations, but added that as early as this week, the U.S. would be announcing a new trade deal with some of its largest trading partners. Even President Trump, just yesterday, said that very soon he's going to have some shocking update. Okay? There's going to be a monumental update. Okay. Could this be it? Some say yes, but others say no. This is not it. Here's what you need to know. Scott Bessent and the U.S. Trade Representative Jameson Greer will travel to Geneva to engage with the Chinese counterparts in what will be the highest level discussions between the two nations in months. The talks come as American businesses and consumers grow increasingly anxious about the rising costs and supply disruptions tied to Trump's tariff policies. It says although President Trump has previously claimed the U.S. and China were already negotiating tariff reductions, Beijing publicly denied the talks had begun. That goes on to say, again, where is it? Bessent appeared to clarify the situation before on the meeting on Tuesday, saying that two sides have not engaged in negotiations, but added that as early as this week, the U.S. is going to be announcing the trade deals. China's Commerce Ministry confirmed the upcoming meeting between Vice Premier He Lifeng and Bessent. So right there, again, we know it's going to happen this week. They're going to get together. That's good news. Also, some big news, which is going to come today. We're going to hear from the Federal Reserve, Jerome Powell. That's going to be big. We're going to figure out what they're going to do with interest rates. We're going to figure out if pretty much his plans moving forward. So that's good news, right? So right now there is some good news coming, but again, keep in mind this is still very early on. I want to read you what people are saying though. China's Commerce Ministry said the Chinese side carefully evaluated the information from the U.S. side and decided to agree to have contact with the U.S. side after fully considering global expectations, Chinese interests, and calls from U.S. businesses and consumers. China was almost forced to do something, okay? Because right now China is in a panic. People in China, some of the factories in China, the workers are panicking because things are so bad today because of what's going on with tariffs. It's worse than during the pandemic. During the pandemic, again, there were a couple months where things were very rough, very rocky. This could be worse. Not just because there's no business coming in to some factories, but because they're producing less goods. They're not getting paid as much. Some aren't even getting paid. Some workers are protesting because they're working, but they're not getting paid because the U.S. side isn't paying for the goods yet. Again, like I said, they're storing inventory in China, but until it gets shipped to the United States, they're not going to pay for it. They will pay for the storage, but they're not going to pay for the products until they receive it. That's an issue because if the U.S. Companies are not paying for the products, how is the Chinese factory supposed to pay their employees? And they're not. So again, it's turning into a major issue, but this could just be the beginning. The nice thing is, the negotiations also mean this could be the end. So we'll see what happens moving forward, but that's what we know as of today. So again, good news. They at least say the negotiations and the discussions are going to be happening this week. But what do they bring? Well, as soon as we get more information on that, I promise I'll bring you all the latest news and updates as soon as we get it. But again, as of today, that is what we know. So thank you guys for watching. Consider subscribing, and I'll see you guys on the next one.